Okay. And this one is in there, I'll just deadlock it.
All right, so hey everybody at home, how's it going? Are there any requests from anyone at the wall that I haven't heard yet? We're good? Okay, sweet. So we've got one bolster, 2 blocks, 1 blanket, and a chair. Does anybody not have that stuff? Thumbs up. Good. Laura, you're going to use your ottoman? Perfect. We're good. So we're going to start on our backs, right? So pelvis on the blanket. Shins are going to have the bolster on it. Knees are going to be right on the edge of the chair and then just lying down onto the floor. So that the backs of the knees are on the edge of the chair, the bolsters weighting the shins, and you want to have your blocks kind of handy. Right, Chandra? Come on the other side. Scooch, 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 scooch. All right, and then we're going to start with just a little bit of imprinting and arching our low back. And so there's 3 main movements of the pelvis, and one of the secret ingredients to getting rid of hip and back pain is not only being able to move the pelvis, but then being able to sustain the pelvis in certain positions, right? So this is the first movement, which is a pelvic tilt. So if we put our hands on our hip flexors, which is where our quad kind of meets our pelvis, and we imprint our low back, we can get sort of like no crease in our hip flexor, and then if we take our pubic bone away from us, we get a little bit of an arch. We feel a crease in our hip flexor, right? So one is an imprint, which is a posterior tilt, and one is an arch, which is an anterior tilt. And these are dominant habits, whereas neutral is a less dominant habit. So we want to try and train that neutral pelvis as much as we can. And so that's movement number 1. So that's an imprint and an arch. Good. And then we're going to drag our heels to us so that our sort of ankles are a little bit closer. You've got your bolster on your shins. You can have your thighs pretty much at a 90. Knees are level. And then have your fingers on your hip bone. And then I want you to pull sort of the right hip down, lift the left hip up, like the pelvis is a teeter-totter. So if the left hip is higher than the right, eventually the left knee would be higher than the right. And then we're going to let the left leg bone come in. We're going to take the right leg bone out. So the right knee is higher, the right hip is higher, the left hip is lower, the left knee is lower. So this is kind of like a teeter-totter. And then eventually we're going to go from side to side with the pelvis teeter-tottering. So we all got the imprint arch. Is anybody not getting the teeter-totter? And if it's new, it's tricky to get, right? So Wes, I'm going to put the blanket underneath your pelvis so that your tailbone's on it. If you bring the blanket down so your pelvis is on the blanket, awesome. And then I might give you a little higher under your head. Yeah, so I want your whole back on there. There we go, perfect. And then I might check this here. There you go. Knees and feet are at hips distance apart. Does anybody feel lost and wants help finding the teeter-totter? Yeah, that. So then let's go right hip down, left hip up, and let's just hold. So I'm going to move your femurs for you, okay? So I'm going to go right femur in, left femur out. So if we can keep the knees at hips distance apart, you see how one knee is slightly higher. If you can see the bolster, one end is slightly higher. Okay. You see that? And then you're going to pull this femur in, you're going to pull this femur out. So this is the teeter-totter. This is the bigger kid, this is the littler kid. So not this way, right? That's a bow tie. I want it this way, which is a teeter-totter. Right, so let me do it for you. Okay. Right, so heavy kid, light kid. You feel how your pelvis is tilting, that the right side of the pelvis is not on the floor, but the left side of the pelvis is. You feel that? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So go back and forth one more time. So I want you to let me do it because you keep doing the imprint, right? So here we go, now just feel that. You feel how this side is lifting and that side is lower. So this is the heavy kid, this is the light kid, right? Let me do it. This is a tough movement for you. See what I'm looking for? Right? So it's a teeter-totter. You got it. And to differentiate this from the bow tie. Now see if you can do it like this. It's really nice. And you may not get it today. If you get imprint, see that's bow tie. It's going to take a bit, but if you get imprint arch today, that's a good start. Anybody else feel lost? Nice, and then stop with the pelvis level, and then we're going to do what we call bow tie. So it's as if you could grab your own butt and you could sit your right butt into a chair and take your left butt away from the chair. You can nail this one. And then opposite, left butt into the chair, right butt away from the chair. Nice. Does everybody have one movement that's more tricky, or does everyone feel like it's pretty balanced? This one's tricky. You got the other one though. You got the teeter-totter, which is usually the hardest. Is it working? Nice, you're getting it. Good work. So that one you got, so show me teeter-totter again. Oh. Pistons. There you go. So think about this. Put your hands under your pelvis. We'll try it from a different angle, all three. So we're going to slide our hands underneath our pelvis. So the thumbs are on the top of the pelvis. The index fingers are on the tailbone. So we can feel that movement, right? If this is too much for your wrists or your shoulders, just put your hands on the front of your pelvis, okay? So let's go back to the first movement, which is imprint and arch. Now if this is super easy for you, lift your shins to a 90. Notice how imprint and arch has a pretty solid effect on your neck. And then stop with imprint and arch. See if you can find a neutral pelvis, and then see if you can teeter-totter. Put more weight into the right side of the pelvis, more weight into the left side of the pelvis, without the knees moving left or right. And if it's tricky, just go back to legs back on the chair. So think about it coming from the back of the leg. So back of the leg lifts, back of the leg lifts. So back of the knee, more. Okay, don't worry, it's the first time you've ever been shown it. Nice. And then last movement is the bow tie. So sort of to the wall, away from the wall. And ideally we do this without imprinting the low back. Nice. Hey Jenny, scooch. And then stop with your pelvis level, bring your hands out. You can return your legs to the chair anytime you like. Relax your shoulders beside you. Take a few big breaths. And so we want to be set up generally so that we can take our arms overhead like a Superman, and we can take our arms out like a T as well, right? So you can scooch and adjust if you need to. So with the blocks is quite tricky. Without the blocks is a lot easier. So blocks are optional, and you can always ditch the blocks anytime you like. We're going to take our hands so that they're over our shoulders, so that our arms are straight up and down. Fingers together, thumbs together if possible. Try not to hold the blocks with your fingertips, but have those fingers almost like a karate chop hand. See if you can get your wrist level with the bottom of your block. And again, you can ditch the blocks anytime you like. It's oddly intense with the blocks, so ditch them when you need to. Keeping a neutral pelvis is your priority, so don't imprint. If you have to imprint a couple times to feel what an imprint is, then do that, but go to no imprint. So it's a little bit harder if you drag your heels to you, so the knees are over the hips, but that the heels are down. And anytime you want to, you can do a shin lift and lift those heels up. Heel of the hand is in line with heel of the block or imaginary block. And then we're going to start with what we call shoulder push-ups. So we're going to move the femur into the shoulder socket, out of the shoulder socket, into the shoulder socket, out of the shoulder socket. So the blocks go up, the blocks go down. Now there's a range, right? How far the humerus bone moves in and out, and then there's a habit, right? So most of us, the right arm bone moves too far out, and the left arm bone moves too far in. So the first thing we're looking for is symmetry, and then we're looking for just right. So if you take your arm bones all the way out, lift those blocks as high as you can, just notice how that feels on your traps. You couldn't shoulder check, you would want to lift something heavy, right? Then bring the arm bones all the way in, hands a shoulders distance apart, wider shoulders, yeah, there we go. So bring them all the way in, without bending your elbows, get those arm bones as close as you can. So this is no support of the shoulders, right? You could shake your head for no, but it would go. You could lift a TV, but you'd regret it for 3 days, right? So you want to be somewhere in the middle, and most importantly, you want to be symmetrical. So go almost all the way up to where your neck feels fabulous. And then see if you can sustain the placement of your humerus bone to fabulous, right? Retraining our body not to be an extension tension, but also not to have those arm bones all the way in without the support of our shoulders. And then see if you can rotate your hands. So rotate in, rotate out, without the humerus bone moving inside the shoulder socket. So it's one thing to understand like functional movement, what's optimum. It's another thing to sustain it when moving, right? Again, you can lift your heels, you can drop your heels anytime you like. Now stop with the fingertips pointing straight over the ceiling. Good. Lift those blocks just right. Hands a shoulders distance apart. Good. And we're going to go from what we call zombie to Superman without changing the ribs or the pelvis. Zombie, Superman. Zombie, Superman. So we go hands to the knees, hands over. So a zombie is shoulders high, right? A Superman is arms with ears. As we do this, we want to sustain that symmetry. And we can ditch those blocks. I told you, it's oddly challenging. And then hold your Superman. And just breathe. Big, beautiful breaths. Where are the wrinkles in your wrists? Are you revving a motorcycle? Can you knock on the door to get rid of the wrinkles in the front of your wrist? Nice. And then inhale back up to zombie, right? Think zombie, like a thriller video. Okay? Then we're going to rotate so the blocks are in a V shape. This is the hardest motion. Most of us will go either to a T or to 211 blocks, right? Try and be in the middle. So not out to the side like a T, not straight up and down like an 11, but halfway in between, right? And then we're going to inhale to open to a martini glass, to a V shape. Exhale to bring it down in to a zombie, but keeping the V. Nice. Inhale to open, exhale to close. And the whole time sustaining the humerus bone. Right? Directional movement of the shoulders. It's a tricky one, but so good for us. Next time you open up like the YMCA, hold it. Can you do this while sustaining the shoulders? Nice work. Scoop those armpits up. Can you level out your wrist? Can you get rid of the wrinkles, right? Knock on the door to get rid of the wrinkles. Nice. And then back up to center. Now rotate so that your middle fingers are pointing out to the side. So middle fingers out to the side, wrist points in, hands at shoulders distance apart. Rest if you need to, ditch the blocks if you need to. Bring your hands a tiny bit lower. Most of us are over our faces, not our shoulders. Thumbs should not be higher than our shoulders. Inhale to open to a T, exhale to close to a zombie. Inhale to open to a T, exhale to close to a zombie. You don't have to go past a shoulders distance. We want to keep it mellow. All right, so this is quite intense. Just relax. Good. And then open to hold. See if you can get rid of the wrinkles in the wrists. Like a T, floating those arms if you can, resting if you need to. And then bring those arms up. Rotate so it's an upside down V. Like an then keeping that V, you're gonna open, you're gonna close. You're gonna open, you're gonna close. When you bring it up, see if the wrists are making a V. See if the blocks are making a V. If you don't have blocks at home, 2 boxes of Kleenex if you're practicing works real nice. And then open those arms up to hold. And so this is halfway to a T, piece of pizza. And then from here, we're going to do like a cleaning of the clock. So we're going to bring the arms up like a jumping jack, and then we're going to bring the hands back through zombie. And then from zombie, we're going to go back to Superman. From Superman, we're going to come through like, almost like a jumping jack, but really fluid, and we are looking for symmetry. Working with your breath. Neutral pelvis. And then bring those blocks back around to a zombie, place them beside you, let your arms be beside you, palms facing up, let your shoulders relax. Let's take the bolster and just place it beside us. Palms up, shoulders relax, everybody's breathing. Let's go 10 more breaths here. So it was a full moon this weekend, and full moon is a time of reflection. Reflecting on our intentions, reflecting on the promises that we maybe like to make to ourselves or to others. Just reflecting on maybe what you want or need. And so using this class, just think about what it is you're trying to create. And then often it's helpful to create a mantra, a vision statement, and repeat that vision statement to yourself. Now knees and feet are at hips distance apart. We're going to slide that right heel to us. We're going to interlace our fingers, right hand on top of left, over that right shin. And we're going to keep our ankle, our knee, and our hip in a nice straight line. Now before you pull, so nobody's pulling, I want you to imprint your low back, your pelvis, I want you to arch it. Imprint it, arch it, imprint it, arch it. And then I want you to arch it. Now your promise to yourself is that you're going to keep the arch. If you're a person that can worry about teeter-totter and bow ties, go for it. But for today, just finding the arch is huge, right? Notice when you imprint, try imprinting one more time that the stretch softens. Notice when you arch that it increases. And then use your arms to start to pull the leg to you without imprinting the pelvis. Use your right leg and lift it up into your hands. Think about the calf and the quad lifting into the hands. If you were to let go, that leg would come flying up. Let's just take 5 more big, beautiful breaths here. And then when those breaths are complete, take your hands behind the right quad, straighten that right quad slowly without the pelvis changing, right? So even if the knee stays bent, try your best not to imprint your low back. And then imprint and arch a couple times just to see if you've lost it. If you can't imprint and arch, bend your knee a little bit and find that imprint arch so you can keep the arch, straighten out that right leg, relax the shoulders. Point and flex that right foot. Think about the leg pushing into the hand and think about your hand pulling back on your leg. And then point that right foot, draw some nice big, slow circles. And then changing direction with the circles. And then stopping with the circles, we're gonna flex, sole the foot flat. We're gonna curl the toes like we're holding onto a pencil. We're gonna point the foot like a dancer, and then we're gonna flip the toes back to us. Flex, sole the foot flat, curl the toes like we're holding onto a pencil, point the foot like a dancer, flip the toes back to us. Last round, flex, curl, point, and flip to hold. Now, if this isn't enough of a stretch, you can take that left leg up and just place the quad against the chair, but not push the chair away. But think about the quad pushing into the chair. Think about the hamstring coming away from the chair, right? If that's too much, or you imprint your low back, you bend the left knee. We really want to keep that pelvis. If you still want more, you take the right leg over to the left side, and if you still want more, you take the left leg over to the right side, getting a crisscross, right? Or to back it up, left leg on its own side, right leg on its own side, half on the chair. So the thing about yoga, right, it's not meant to be practiced in individual groups, like advanced, or old, or young, or kids, right? It's supposed to be community practice. Partially because we're all different and we're supposed to appreciate the differences, right? And we're supposed to appreciate ourselves for being different. And we're ideally going to learn how to be essentially ourselves, right? Being our best self instead of trying to be someone else's best self. So the beauty of a group class is we can learn how to be our best self, right? AKA go to a place that's right for you, not necessarily your neighbor, right? Which means taking breaks. So this is away from you. Yeah. There you go. And we're gonna, can you slide this foot under? Yeah, there you go. Nice. And so you see how you keep bending it to bring it super close? I would love to see your arms straight. Yeah, there you go. Let's go 5 more breaths here. When those 5 breaths are complete, each leg comes to its own side. Bend your left leg, place it on the chair. Bend your right leg. Hook your right ankle on the outside of your left knee and move that right knee away from you. Press into both feet. So again, wrists are a thing, and they are a pain in the butt to fix. So if you know that you have great control over your fingers, you know that you don't have any wrist stuff going on, that last shoulder work was pretty easy, then you put a bolster on your hands and you bring your hands up into a zombie, right? If that was really hard for you, you don't need a bolster, you can still do a zombie, right? From here, you want to think about moving your right knee away from you, imprint and arch your low back a couple times, see if you can find that little bit of a back bend, right? So your job today is just to learn how to not imprint your low back. That's all that matters. Now, without imprinting your low back, can you slide that left heel to you as you move your right knee away from you? So ideally, the spine doesn't change at all. And then you can stay here with the arms. You can go a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, or you can hover off the floor, right? You just go to where you can sustain it and work the right amount. Hands shoulders distance apart. Nice. Use your fingertips, use your palms. Everybody's breathing. And the closer that heel comes, the deeper the hip stretch. But really, today is about not imprinting. I'm going to move this guy over here. It's just a measurement. This is nice and level, which is great. Nice. So you want to think, pubic bone going away from navel. Dragging that left heel to you. If you need more stretch, we want to make sure that there's no exactly like that. There's no wrinkles in that ankle. that's nice. And then if you can feel it, I'll show you the teeter-totter just because you're stuck there. You're gonna touch your hips, is that okay? So if I feel this hip and that hip, I can see that this hip is a lot lower than that hip. Can you feel that? Can you feel that there's more weight here than there is here? See, I can get my fingers right under here, but I can't on this side. So your teeter-totter, the bigger kid is here. This is the bigger kid. It's heavy, it's pushing it down. So I have to use my muscles to balance it. Do you see how that kind of changes the hip stretch?
Kind of.
Yeah.
That one is higher up to me though.
I know, because you twist right. And probably everything in life you twist. Well, and you might twist left on the other side too, because it's the hip opener. But this is level. I know everyone's like, what up? Because everyone's twisted. Nobody's straight. If they are, they're lying, right? And it's okay as long as it doesn't cause you pain, but most people, the lack of symmetry is a major trigger for pain. Yeah, that's why we train to strengthen always so you can sustain neutral. And then nice inhale to bring it all the way up, right? Put the bolster beside you. Let your arms relax for a moment. And then let that left leg slide away from you. Right knee comes to you. Uncross. Open up the back of the knee. And then just bring that leg back onto the chair. Press into your legs. Pick up your pelvis. Give your pelvis a little wiggle. Back and forth. And then bring your pelvis back down. Once again, imprint and arch your low back. Imprint and arch. And then see if you can find that little bit of a back bend where your pubic bone, hip bones are level, and you can feel the crease in your hip flexors. If you imprint your low back, there's no hip flexor crease, right? So if we drive our car, sit at the desk, like this, with no hip flexor crease, we're constantly bending in our low back and not our hips, right? So they're not doing their own job, they're not minding their own business, right? So move your pubic bone away so you've got that nice hip flexor crease. Draw the left leg to you, interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right over that left shin. Really think of that little bit of a back bend. Think about the leg lifting up like it's trying to straighten, and then use your arm strength to pull that leg to you. Odds are that you twisted left, so pull the right femur in. So we're doing half lunge maneuver, babe. And we're doing half lunge maneuver, which is this one.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, don't have to apologize. There's a gazillion movements. Nice big breaths here. Think about sitting that left butt into a chair. Think about lifting that left quad up. Think about a little bit of a back bend. And then from here, we're going to interlace our fingers, left hand on top of right, behind the left thigh, and we're going to take that left leg away from us. So this is hard to hear. The job of the left leg is not to come to you. The job of the left leg is to try and go away from you, right? And then see if you can imprint and arch your low back. And if you can't move your pelvis, then you need to do less. You need to bend that left knee so that you can imprint and arch your low back and try and keep a little bit of a back bend. And then straighten that left leg as much as you can without moving the pelvis, and then point and flex that left leg. And the right leg is a neutral rotation, and it's rooting down into the chair, nice and active. Point the left foot, draw nice big slow circles. Change direction with the circles. And then flex the foot, sole the foot flat, curl your toes like you're holding onto a pencil, point your foot like a dancer, flip your toes back to you. Flex, curl, point, and flip, flex, curl, point, and flip. So left leg is moving away from you. It's as straight as it can be. If you want it to be more challenging, straighten your right leg. Place your right leg on the chair. The quad is trying to push the chair away. The hamstring is trying to not push the chair away, so that we find this resistance between the front and the back of the leg. You still want more, you take that left leg over the right leg. If you still want more, you take the right leg over to the left side. And just breathing here. Big, beautiful breaths. Yeah, exactly. We're going to go back on that stuff. Good. It'll get easier and easier. This is why I don't teach drop-in, because it's so much information the first few classes, it's like your brain's going to explode, right? But everybody gets it. Or they quit. Both are options. So think of that little baby back bend. Let's just go 5 more breaths. When those breaths are complete, bringing your legs back to center, bend your right leg, place it on the chair, bend your left leg, externally rotate, poke your ankle on the chair. So not on the chair, but on the knee, and then imprint and arch your low back. Odds are you're teeter-tottering left. So it's almost like you've got to put a heavy, heavy weight on your right hip so that you're not twisting left. Keep a bit of a back bend. If you want to take the bolster onto your hands and you did on the other side, go for it, right? But you want to make sure you're finding that extension, no tension, so that it's symmetrical and that you're not all the way out with the arm bones, you're not all the way in with the arm bones. And then we're going to drag that right heel to us, just as close as we can without imprinting the low back. So really thinking of that arch. Press your rib cage into the floor, and then nice and slow, with control, bring your arms towards the floor without changing your spine or your pelvis. So if we can lift something without our back moving, without our pelvis moving, our backs will appreciate it. And so we start by lifting our arms, right? Then we lift maybe blocks like we did before. Then maybe we add a bit of weight. I don't know what these are, maybe 5 pounds? Sometimes I put the salt bags on them, but not today. Keep on breathing. Move that left knee away from you. Fire up the foot. No wrinkles in those ankles, so your knee's happy. Good. And so you got to remember this measurement. You're on the inside, and outside is where the hip release is. Just anatomically what works with stretching. You can always do less. And learning to do less, right, when other people are doing more, is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself in yoga and in life. Let's go 10 more breaths here. Lift those shoulders away from the floor, like they're 2 bowls, and the floor is a table, and you're lifting the bowls of the shoulders up. No wrinkles in those wrists. Now to come out of this, you don't want to change your spine. You want to push your rib cage down. So go to your back ribs, push them heavy, heavy down into the floor. Nice inhale to bring the bolster up and over. Place the bolster beside you. Arms beside you, palms up. Slide that right knee away from you. Bring your left knee towards your navel. Uncross. Open up the knee to flush the joint. And then place both calves onto the chair. And let's do one more round of the 3 pelvis movements, okay? So hands on the pelvis. Let's imprint the low back. Let's arch the low back. Imprint and arch. Nice. having a nice neutral pelvis, I want you to think about a teeter-totter. So I want you to push your shin of your left leg down, but I want you to lift the back of the left leg up until that left hip lifts, left pelvis lifts, and it creates a downward slope from your left hip to your right hip. So the back of the left leg is lifting, but the left shin pushes down. That's how you get that. Or you can just think of a jack behind the back of the pelvis hiking it up. And then you reverse it. So you go back to level, and then you think, I'm going to put a jack underneath my right pelvis. I'm going to lift up the right calf, back of right knee, but the right shin is going to push down so that you get a twist, so that the right hip is higher than the left. And go slow to start with. It might help you to bring your heels a little bit closer to you and see if you can teeter-totter from side to side. And the knees, I've got quite a big range so you can see my knees, what a difference there is, right? I think, I can't remember the exact percentages. I think we've got like a 45% twist in our upper back, and we've got like a 12% twist in our low back, right? Does that sound right, Martha? You don't know? Anyway, we're supposed to twist with our upper back, but we are supposed to have a little bit of twist in our low back too. And then stop level, good, and then think of a bow tie. So think, I'm now going to sit one butt into a chair, which is going to take that hip bone. So if I think of my right butt and I sit my right butt into a stool, my right hip is lower, my left hip is higher. I can take my left butt away from the stool, away from the back of the chair. One quad will be closer, one will be further away. And then you swap it. So you take the left butt, left thigh away from you, and you take the right hamstring, right calf, right heel to you. So we're learning how to move the pelvis like this. And if you're lost, just speak up. I'm almost there. And then stop level, walk it in. Sort of, actually, you know what, we'll do back bend first. Bring your legs onto the chair, knees onto the chair, arms beside you, palms down. Now imprint your low back. So anytime we back bend, we want to imprint and traction our spine. So imprint your low back, pull your back rib cage away from your pelvis, keep the muscles of an imprint as you lift your butt up towards the sky. You keep that imprint, moving the flesh of the butt away from the low back. And then nice and slow, you're going to bring yourself back down, let the pelvis rest. Take a couple breaths there. Find neutral pelvis in your rest position. Knees and toes pointing straight up towards the sky. And then root down into your legs, imprint your low back. And then nice and slow, lift your back up away from the floor. Push your back rib cage down to the floor and pull it away from your pelvis to traction your own spine. Nice, those ribs are coming. Bring your pelvis down. So you want your knees back to the chair. Great, so you're going to come this way so that your pelvis is on the blanket. And there you go. Nice. Now think, the backs of my legs are lifting up, right? So my calves are trying to get away from the chair. My backs of the knees are getting away from the chair. The hamstrings are getting away from the chair. And then tug of war, right? So the hamstrings are going to move to the butt and the calves are going to move to the heels, to the Achilles, right? But then the shins are going to push down like there's a bolster on the shins. Get your heels right down by pushing down with your shins. So there's opposition. Calves want to lift, shins want to go down, so they meet in the middle, which is neutral, right? Like any good argument, there's a neutral. Hamstrings are lifting, quads are pushing. Push your big toe mounts into me. Push me away. Nope, nope, here. That's how we're going to level up those feet. And your knees will love that. Good. So if you feel your big toe mount, it should be as far away from your knee as your baby toe mount. Then think of the flesh of your butt moving away from your low back and the middle of your butt going to the sky. See if you've got 5 more breaths here. That's really nice. Think of a ball underneath your back rib cage. Push your back rib cage down. and then traction your pelvis away from your back ribs. Or rest, right? That's always an option. When those 5 breaths are complete, all the way down. Nice and slow, upper back, mid back, low back. And then bring those legs in. You can go with your hands behind your legs. You can go over your shins. You can go for a wrist or an elbow or a forearm. Hug those legs in and just rock it from side to side. Making sure that the chin isn't lifting. If the chin is lifting, make your arms a little longer so that your neck can be a little more neutral. And then once you've found your side to side, do circles with the knees. And swap and interlacing or a grip if you need symmetry. Change directions with your knee circles. Squeeze those ankles and those knees so we're warming up our groins. And then a little more side to side. And then rolling off to one side, push yourself up. Come into tabletop position. In front of your chair, hands on the chair. So hands on the chair, knees down, toes down, pulling your belly. Use all your fingers to grip that chair and push your knees up. Walk your feet forward and find a little bit of a box pose. You can have your knees bent or you can have your knees straight, whatever you prefer, but there should be no change in your upper back. So with this position, we lift up, we take our booties back. We haven't moved our feet, we've taken our butts way back, and then we straighten out the legs as much as is comfortable without affecting our back. Nice. Take a few big breaths here. Big, beautiful breaths. So, can you bend your knees? Can you bend them? And can you take your pelvis back as opposed to, yeah, there we go. So the trick is to keep this back nice and straight, and now straighten your legs without your pelvis. There we go. And that's probably good, right? We want a moderate stretch. Now think, same rules apply, right? The backs of the legs are trying to get forward. They're pushing towards the chair. The fronts of the legs are trying to get back. Neutral pelvis if you can. You could imprint and arch your back a little bit here, but see if you can find a little bit of a lumbar curve. It's easier with your knees bent, and then you sustain it as you straighten, so feel free to bend at any point. If your hands are on the chair, you can either squeeze your fingers or push with your palms, whatever you like. Now think of a mini bend in your elbows. Wherever you're at, just a little mini micro bend in those elbows. Bending your knees will soften it. So if you need to soften it, bend your knees. And then everybody's going to bend their knees as much as they can. Bend, bend, bend your knees as much as you can to your end range. Then one hand on one knee, other hand on the other knee. But this is a trick, okay? Listen real careful. Do not straighten your legs, straighten your arms. That is one of the hardest things for humans to do, I swear. Forget headstand. Now lean into your back ribs. So straight arms with your knees as bent as possible, right? Lift up into your back ribs, lift into your belly, arms super active. Then you just release. Then you stand up and you have a neutral spine. So that's how we lift anything, including our own bodies, right? So as we do these next routines, which are hella hard and they're going to be pretty long, you can transition anytime you like, right? With very, 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 very bent knees, okay? A rest could be this. A rest could come into a squat if you need a rest, right? Or you could do a rest like this. Everybody feels comfortable with their rest options? A, B, C, right? Anything in that range. All right, so let's start on our elbows. We're going to put our bolsters on our chair. You can ditch the blanket. We're going to see if we can bend our knees, hold onto our elbows, and put our elbows on the chair. My knees are quite bent. And then I'm going to have my shoulders right over my elbows. So this is a hard one to hear. I'm going to take my shoulders forward so they're right over my elbows. And at any point I wanted to, I could rest my head by placing my forehead on my hands. But guess what I'm doing with my low back? Little mini back bend. Good. Now lift your forehead and let's move the humerus bone in and out of the shoulder sockets. So you just push the arms in, you take the arm bones out. Nice. So this is magic. Some of us have our arm bones too far out all the time. Some of us have our arm bones too far in all the time. The most common thing I see is one arm bone too far out, one arm bone too far in. All three are not optimum. For repetitive movement, right? You can do it, watching TV or doing the odd pose, but you don't want to go through life with that always being the case. So find just right. It's not all the way out, it's not all the way in, it's just right. And it takes a while to figure out just right, so be patient with yourself. Good. Now bend your knees. I want your shins at a 90 with bent knees if you can, so take your pelvis back, maybe your thighs can come to touch. And your legs can be straight, but the shoulders don't move, the pelvis doesn't move. Neutral back. You want it to be more mellow? You bend your knees. So just a couple times, bend your knees, straighten your legs. Observe, right? But what I don't want to do is this, which is a straight leg hunch, can't shoulder check. Gross. I'm imprinting and I can't shoulder check. Right? So you don't straighten your legs if you compromise your back. So 10 breaths here. Find your right position where your back is nice and neutral. Remember, anytime you want, you can come out of the pose and rest. You can rest your forehead. You can have a neutral neck by lifting up into the back of the skull. When those 10 breaths are complete, we're going to heel toe our feet apart. We're going to bend our knees as much as we can. Bend our knees, bend our knees, bend our knees. We're going to take our knees and our pelvis as far back as we can. See how my shoulders go back. Then one hand, other hand, straighten out your arms without straightening your legs. So if we learn to move with a straight back and lift with our legs, our backs are going to be so stoked, you guys, right? So bend the knees, straight arms. Bend those knees, straight arms as much as you can, train it. And then release, do not change the back, just straighten out your legs. Beautiful, take a little rest, palms forward, close your eyes, find your breath. Yoga is so easy, hey? So let's do the other side. So this time, the left elbows on top of the right, elbows on the floor. Start with your feet not on the floor, on the chair. Start with your feet at hips distance apart. Get your shoulders right over those elbows, bend your knees, get your pelvis as far back as you can. And again, you can straighten, but you don't want to compromise the back to do so. So most of us need a bent knee, because most of us can't touch our toes, right? And then the trick is, start to move the knees back, even in a bent position, so that eventually the knees are over the ankles. And if you wanted to go deeper, don't let those shoulders move, don't let the pelvis move, so there's no forward and back motion. Bring the thighs to touch, bring the feet towards one another. Neutral pelvis. Give me 10 breaths here. And ask yourself, is this hard? Can I sustain this, including the spine, and do lots of interesting movements? Or is it better for me to do a little less when I add the movement? And wait for me. Wait for me, because then you don't get the instruction, right? So I want you to just think, this is really, really subtle. Just this arm bone out. Push into the chair, push into the chair, push into the chair. There you go. And then when you're ready, bend your knees, walk your feet apart, take your knees back, one hand on one knee, other hand on the other knee, straighten out your arms. So very, very bent knees, very, very straight arms. In 99% of human bodies that I've ever seen, this will be a neutral-ish spine. If you learn how to get those muscles firing, then you just release the hands and you lift, right? And you'll be lifting whatever you want to lift until the end of time. Find your breath. So Stephen this weekend, straight up, I kid you not, right? I was telling Dave, he moved a queen mattress with rock spring out through an elevator, right? And he moved a faucet mattress. Has anyone ever bought a faucet? He moved that single-handedly king size. You know,
Doesn't have any handles.
it's like a dead body. Like it's crazy what that guy can lift. I'm like, bend your knees, bend your knees. But anyway, it's my little brag about my husband, but funny, right? Anything you can do. All right, so this is what you can do. You can either do this option. This is an even better option. This is an even more mellow option, right? So if this was hard, you want to do this. Trust me, okay? I promise you. You don't need to do more, you need to do less, all right? So if you felt like the last option, this was hard, you're going to ditch this, you're going to turn it around, and you're going to put your hands on your chair this way, right? Does that make sense? Is anybody going to do that or no? You definitely want to do it. You definitely want to do it. The rest of us are going to have our elbows on the bolster. So there's two options. You can have your elbows on the bolster and find that same position, or you can have your hands on the chair and find that same position. Both are great options, right? But what I'm looking for is that this is straight. It's not this, okay? Watch this. Right here, yeah. Bang out some shoulder push-ups. So wherever you're at, shoulders in, shoulders out. So you can get the shoulders kind of in line with your elbows. If you're doing this version, it might be a little bit out, but you want to see if you can move the humerus bone. And then you find the humerus bone just right. We're going to walk our thighs to touch. We're going to find symmetry in our back. And then we can bend the right knee. We're going to lift that right leg up and down. So one or both knees can be bent. If it's bent, you just keep it bent. But what I want is that that left booty doesn't move. Pelvis doesn't move. Left knee doesn't move. Shoulders don't move. You're going to hate me and you're going to love me. Fair enough. You don't want to do it with bent knees? But you need to also learn how to do life in your body, right? Does that make sense? And then lift to hold. So we're not rotating that hip. We're bending our knees less, and we just lift to hold. Pelvis low. Good. And then we're going to do a shin lift. We're just going to bend and straighten that leg without the thigh moving. Yay! And then we're going to bend to a 90, and we're going to raise the roof without the pelvis, shoulders back, moving. Love the burn. And then lift to hold. You can bring your leg down, or you can stick with me. You can straighten and bend, straighten and bend. And this is the beach routine. There's always a big old piece of driftwood. Right? I'm just looking without the pelvis moving.
This is too much on my wrists.
What is
much better if I'm on my arms like this.
So can I make a suggestion? Just can you try, right, like that, where you're not bending your wrists, but you're finding your fingers, and you can even do it here if you wanted to do it. Does that make sense? So try that. Is that working? And then bring that leg down and just into the rest. Walk your feet apart a little bit. I'll come help you in just one sec. Bend your knees generously. Bring your hands onto your knees, flat back. Straighten out your arms. Keep your knees bent, and up you come. Does that help?
But it's still easier.
Getting our fingers strong. Easier isn't going to heal you, right? Going, oh, I don't want to do it. Or you can find a way to do it, right? So that fingers get stronger so that we don't feel as much pain in the long run, right? So that's an option if that works. So what I don't like you to do is this, because then what's happening is your fingers are being not strengthened. Yeah. The other option is to do it here. But for me, I want us to move past that pain without pain. Does that make sense? We can do this until the cows come home because you've got flexibility, but that's not what we're trying to build, right? All right, let's do the other side. So when you're ready, okay, bend your knees, either elbows or hands, opposite grip if you're doing the elbows, good. Find your nice neutral spine, walk those thighs in, head can come down anytime you like. And again, with a straight leg or a bent leg, you're going to bring that left leg up and down. Bend knees are fabulous, you guys. They really get you stronger. How's that working for you? And the spine looks great. We're stabilizing the pelvis. I'm loving it. The back looks great. And I want to see this knee almost permanently bent. So the knee shouldn't move. The knee, and same with you, Monica, the knee, see how my left knee doesn't move at all? I'm not doing this, right? I want to stabilize that joint. Then bring that leg up to hold it up. Good. And then we're going to do a shin lift. We're just going to straighten and bend. So there's no part of my body that's moving except for my shin. Bend the knee. You're going to really hate hearing it, but you're going to have to do it. Good. And then bend the knee to hold and then go for a raise the roof. No twist in the pelvis, no movement through the spine, no movement in the hips. And then when that feels complete for you, your legs come down, you walk your feet so they're hips distance apart, little bend in the knees. Unless you're really bendy, then you can straighten your legs, but if you don't understand the pelvis yet, just bend your knees, trust me. Good. And then to come out of it, hands onto the knees, bend your knees as much as you can, straighten out those arms. Beautiful. Press down into those feet, nice inhale to come up, palms forward, shoulders back, close your eyes, and breathe. Slow down your heart rate by slowing down your breath. You got one more round left in you. So either elbows or hands, whatever you prefer, right? And you're going to take your hips back. We're going to bring our thighs to touch. We're going to look at our moon poses. We're going to float one leg up, and then we're going to open up the hip, drop the hip without the other leg moving. And then maybe we go deeper, maybe we don't, right? So you're going to bring it up, and you're going to open the hip, drop the hip. Without the left hip moving in or out, just open it, drop it. Open it, drop it, and then open it to hold, right? And you can stay here, or you can bring your hand onto the chair and come into the moon pose, right? Whatever you prefer. But the shoulder stays, the pelvis stays, right? If the balance feels good, you can extend that right arm into a T. You can even bend that right knee, grab that foot, and get the quad stretch. But the left leg doesn't move at all. And you just get off the bus or you get off the bus. And do your best not to shorten on that side by sitting the booty into the chair. So when you move the pelvis, the spine doesn't necessarily change. And then bringing the elbow down, hand down, hip down, that foot comes onto the floor. Bend your knees, rest here, or you can come up into standing for the rest, whatever feels restful. Feet a little bit wider, knees generally bent. And then walking those thighs to touch, good. Coming up either onto your hands or your elbows, lifting that left leg up, movement, that's fine, it'll come. And then lift that hip to hold, but that right knee, right leg hasn't moved, right hip stable. Maybe one hand takes the back of the chair, right? Maybe you come a little deeper this way, right? Maybe you can bring that arm up. Maybe you can go for the ankle, right? You just get off the bus where you need to get off the bus. How's that feeling, Terry? Yeah. Is it okay on the other side? Oh, fair enough. Is it, no, it's not like this. And then when it feels complete, both hands down, pelvis down, bend your knees, let your forehead rest or hang or whatever. Bend your knees, take your butt back, one hand on your knee, other hand on your knee, straighten out your arms, keep your knees nice and bent, release your arms, up you come, Tadasana. Big, beautiful breaths. I'll turn the heat down too.
Looking for windows.
Over here.
Yeah. So you go.
The sweaters come out on this side of the room. For those of you that are new, the windows open on this side and the windows never open on that side. So everybody gets what they want. You go do this later, I'm sure. All right, thighs touching, feet touching, hands on hips, elbows back. Really think flesh of butt down, middle of butt forward. Lift up just your right heel. Keep a bend in your left knee. Lift up that, left knee. Lift up your right knee. Beautiful. Maybe you just stay here or maybe you stay here. But this is a balancing pose. So what's most important is that you're balancing. Grabbing your knee is secondary. We've already done that. Maybe you can interlace your fingers, right hand on top of left. Maybe you bring your hands outside the shin. Really sit your butt into a chair and start to pull that leg to you. Lift your elbows, pull them apart, find your breath. Both feet nice and active. It helps to fix your gaze on one point. I tend to like to look at the horizon because it's a better neck habit, right? A lot of people, when they look at the floor, it's like they're looking at their phone and their neck falls into that texting neck. Beautiful breaths. So this is a level pelvis. If I start to twist my pelvis, I run into all kinds of difficulty, right? So try not to move that pelvis. Try not to move that left leg. Nice. And then release. Feet at hips distance apart, palms forward, knees soft. Breathe. And balance is a practice. I was a rugby playing downhill racer. I sucked at balance so bad that I was embarrassed to teach it when I started teaching. Like I was like, very embarrassed. All right, walk your thighs to touch, hands on the hips, elbows back, bend, beautiful. Fix your gaze on your horizon, lift your heel. Keep a bend in that right knee. I swear to you, that makes such a difference. Lift your left leg. Try not to lift that left hip. Right? Hold here. Just think about the back of the leg lifting, the front of the leg pushing. Sit this booty down so the pelvis stays level. Interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right over the shin, and wait. Kick your leg into your hand into your leg, active elbows, level wrists, and then see if you can come up. Yoga is about act, not react. My God, if I could do that in life, I'd be so much better. It's my life's work. Keep on breathing. Wherever you're at is great. Remember, this is about balance, not about depth. Socks off helps. But not, you've got to balance on socks too in life, so do you?
I feel my foot going inside the sock.
Yeah, and are you on 2 mats?
I think so.
That combo is tricky, so at least you get rid of one of the trickies. Let's go 5 more breaths. And release, beautiful. Find your breath. All right, so you can breathe, and I want you just to watch this. So as we come into an extended leg, right, we don't want to move the pelvis as we open. So you see how what I didn't do was twist my pelvis. It's much easier to twist my pelvis, right? And it's not that I'm never going to do that. It's just I want to strength train so that my outer hip is strong enough that I can do it without hurting my hips, right? Which is why yogis that practice this way can do weird shit and not hurt their hips, and gymnasts and cheerleaders have to hit the chiropractor all the time, right? So it's just a little tiny change that makes it sustainable, okay? So it's not about taking your leg, straightening it. It's not about bringing it out. I can do the same thing with my knee. I can do the same thing here. But what my priority is, I'm not twisting the hip. We just spent a lot of time twisting the hip so that we don't twist the hip, right? Because there's two different movements. They're both important. All right, thighs touch. Hands on the hips, elbows back. Bend your knees, lift your right heel. Fix your gaze, lift that leg. You can take the knee. I like to put my left hand on my pelvis when I'm training this. I can put my hand on my knee, my hamstring, or I can take the foot. I'm in the habit of taking the baby toe edge of the foot. Energetically, it just works for me. And then straighten, right? And then without moving your pelvis, without your left leg moving, you open it, right? So we don't want that hook. We want to think of a little elf pushing our hip forward on that right side. Let's go 10 more breaths. I think of this outer trochanter really cutting into my groin lengthening to my knee opening like Baddha Konasana, right? And I could be here, but really mind the pelvis. We spent so much work minding the pelvis. And release, take a little break. And then walk those feet to one another, hands on hips, elbows back, bend your knees, pull in your belly. Right, so here this anterior tilt, like a gymnast or a cheerleader, we don't want that. We want to pull our bellies in, flesh the butt down, middle of the butt forward, so we've got a neutral pelvis. Lift up your left heel, fix your gaze, bring that left leg up. Again, you can grab the hamstring, the knee, or you can take the foot, wherever you like on the foot. Right, and then you wait. Right, you don't rush it. You act, not react. Then maybe you kick out. Then you put that idea of something pushing your pelvis and your trochanter forward to bring it out, right? And you just breathe. And you think external rotation from inside the hip socket, wherever that is. And this is a good balance too. And forward, release. Big, beautiful breaths. Weights on the wall, so we'll do full pose. But we get off the bus where we want to, right? Let's bring our thighs together. Let's bend our knees, pull in our bellies. So anterior tilt, right? Zip. Flesh your butt down, middle butt forward. Upanavayu, Samanavayu. Keep those knees bent. Lift up your right foot. Lift up the leg. Pelvis doesn't move. Shoulders ideally don't move. Head ideally doesn't move. Grab wherever you grab. If you can take the foot into two hands, you take the foot into two hands. If you can take the quad, you take the quad. If you need your hands on your hips, take your hands onto your hips. Extend. Beautiful. And then you just kind of bend your elbows. You lift up. You really think of everything we've thought of, and you bring it through. If you're having a good day, you can do that. Or this, right? So Ray, when you get to the top, it's external rotation of the hip, external, 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 and then in the end, you need to go internal. And everybody releases. Slow down your heart rate, by slowing down your breath. What do you truly need? Not what you want, but what do you need? I want to sit on the couch and eat potato chips. And then I want to have crazy weekends where I work way too hard. Like this weekend, right? Like it's like pendulum. And what's comfortable in the middle? It's not crazy yoga practice once a year. It's a little bit of yoga 5 times a week, right? It's not yoga every day. All right, hands on hips, elbows back, bend your knees. It's a little bit of tequila, not the bottle. Pick up that left heel. Fix your gaze. Pick up the knee and the hamstring. Maybe you go for the back of the leg with 2 hands. Maybe you go for the foot and you wait, right? You don't rush it. And then it's a shin lift, right? And then it's an intense leg stretch, but it is a lot of elbow. Lifting the elbows off the tables, pulling them apart. It's external until the very top, then it's internal. Or anything in between. Right? Breathing. Bending those knees. So Terry, hamstrings are a good option too, right? That's way more gentle on the attachment point. And then find straight here, right? Versus, but a little bend. Yeah, much better. And your back's better. And release. I promise I won't forget the knee drop. I felt the energy. My Nietzsche girls are like sending me moonbeams. Hands on knees, butt back. Good work, you guys. Point your feet out, heels in. See if you can bring your elbows onto your knees. Remember, we're never allowed to feel our knees in yoga. Maybe we can reach forward and start to drop that booty. There's a chair there if you need it. And it's almost like harassment, but if you can't squat and you don't have a squatty potty, that is not what you need. And your mantra is, I will buy a squatty potty. I have a squatty potty. I have a squatty potty. I have a squatty potty. Just get one.
Michelle, I suppose, are you like fully relaxed or are you lifting up?
I'm super active and I'm lifting my butt off a chair. Yeah. I mean, if I'm like, man, I'm relaxed, but if I'm doing yoga and conscious of my body, I'm lifting. And then when you're done, up you come. Knees and feet at hips distance apart. Nice straight back. We keep the straight back as we walk ourselves out like a bear. We drop down onto our knees. And then if our knees love squatting, we can come over into another squat. Or we can take our feet out to one side, our hands out to the other to sweep our legs through. So nidra, we're going to do a 10-minute nidra. Any shavasana is an option. I'm really into this one right now, but you don't have to do this one. And you can do this one with or without a chair. But it's intense with a chair. It's less intense without a chair. So again, if this is a comfortable pose for me, I can do it with a chair, or I can do it without a chair. This needs to go a little further back. This is like, and it's coughing season. My God, it's the never-ending coughing season. So you're less likely to cough in this position than flat on your back. But if your back is sensitive, you can always lie on your back and do shavasana like this with the blanket underneath your head. So this is for if your back's sensitive and your knees are sensitive, or you can do this version. Right, or the no chair version, whatever you fancy. All right, so we have some new people to nidra. Nidra is like, it's called yoga sleep, but really it's a subconscious meditation. We don't want to use negative words because our subconscious doesn't understand negative words. So if I said, I am not going to do too much, then I'm really saying I'm going to do too much. And if I say, I am going to do less, then I'm going to do less, right? Does that make sense? This is me trying to manifest what I'm doing right now. I'm doing way too much. I have great boundaries around alcohol. I don't drink, right? So then you'd say I drink versus I have great boundaries. That's how it works. Let your body relax. So eventually, you're going to come to a place where you're asked to set an intention, and you state your intention as if it was already true. And you can come up with an intention now, or you can just throw one out there like world peace. Making any adjustments you need to make now, so that for the next 10 minutes, you can be as still as possible. And then just let your body relax. For the practice of Yoga Nidra now begins. For this practice, we're going to take a trip through the different parts of the body. And as I name the different parts of the body, you are to simultaneously become aware of that part of your body and encourage it to relax. Maybe even silently saying the name of that body part to yourself after me as you encourage that part of your body to relax. The practice always begins with the right hand. Right hand thumb, second finger, third, fourth, fifth finger. Back of the right hand, palm of the hand, right wrist, lower arm, elbow, upper arm, right shoulder, armpit, chest, right rib cage, waist, hip, buttock, right thigh, knee, calf, shin, right ankle, heel, sole of the right foot, top of the foot, right big toe, second toe, third, fourth, fifth toe. Now for the left side of the body, left hand thumb, second finger, third, fourth, fifth finger. Back of the left hand, palm of the hand, left wrist, lower arm, elbow, upper arm, left shoulder, armpit, chest, left rib cage, waist, hip, buttock, left thigh, knee, calf, shin, left ankle, heel, sole of the left foot, top of the foot, left big toe, second toe, third, fourth, fifth toe. Whole of your right arm. Evenly, simultaneously feel the whole of your right arm. Heavy. Relax. Whole of your right leg. Evenly, simultaneously feel the whole up your right leg. Heavy. Relax. Whole of your left arm. Evenly, simultaneously feel the whole of your left arm. Heavy. Relax. Whole of your left leg. Evenly, simultaneously feel the whole of your left leg. Heavy. Relaxed. Whole of the right arm. Whole of the right leg. Feel both right arm and right leg together. Feel the whole right side together. Feel your whole right side. Heavy. Relaxed. Whole of the left arm. Whole of the left leg. Feel both left arm and left leg together. Feel your whole left side together. Feel your whole left side. Heavy. Relax. Whole of the right side of the body. Whole of the left side of the body. Feel both right side and left side together. Feel the whole body together. Feel the whole body lying perfectly still on the floor. And within the whole body, begin to cultivate gratitude. We cultivate gratitude by thinking of one thing or many things for which we are truly grateful. So allowing yourself to become overwhelmed, all consumed with gratitude by thinking of one thing or many things for which you are truly grateful. Grateful in the knowing that it is through gratitude that we create the most fertile soil upon which we plant seeds of intention. So allowing yourself to plant a seed. State your intention 3 times as if it were already true right now. And then once again, gratitude, grateful in the knowing that this seed, this intention which you have planted, should you choose to care for it, nurture it, water it, it will bloom and it will grow into your reality. Taking a moment now to visualize just one thing you can do to get closer to the dream. Becoming aware of your natural, spontaneous breath within your still body. Slowly, gently begin to wake your body from the inside by deepening your breath. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. And stretch any way you'd like. Bend those legs, maybe give those legs a nice hug. You can even rock a little bit if you wanted to. And then when you're ready, there's no rush. Roll off to the side, push yourself up, and we're going to come into a nice comfortable seated position, something that works for your body. This is a good one. Sitting on a bolster is a good one, right? That can be a lot more mellow on your back, spiritually. We're going to bring our hand position on the side. We're going to end with 3 ohms. So we'll go low ohm, medium ohm, high ohm before we dedicate the merit of our practice. May we use this class to be mindful that it's through gratitude that we create the most fertile soil upon which we plant seeds of intention. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your practice. Namaste. Namaste, everybody. It's workshop weekend, so if anybody wants to work on their pelvis, their back, and their hands, right? That's the weekend to do it. Sunday, I want to say 9 till noon. It's on the poster outside, or the bulletin board, or the chalkboard. Bye, guys. Be well. Bye, guys.